Chiefs, 49ers. It's Super Bowl week. It's up for you guys to decide who you're rooting for. You know who I'm rooting for. I'm not wearing the gear today, but I'm going big for the Chiefs. I'm excited. Welcome back to the In the Huddle podcast. It's finally time for the Super Bowl 58 preview. I can't believe we're already here. It feels like yesterday we just started the season. This is our final preview episode of the entire season. It's bittersweet for many reasons. Not only because it's sweet that it's Super Bowl. We all love the Super Bowl. And it's sweet for me personally because the Chiefs are in it. But there's always that moment right after the game ends, right after all the craziness ends, even if I'm celebrating a Super Bowl win, there's that moment where you're like, damn, that's it. There's no football. There's the draft, there's the combine coming up, but you're not watching on Sundays a game that counts until early September. So we got to soak this in. This is one of my favorite weeks of the entire season. Welcome to Super Bowl week. Here we go. Woo! Chiefs versus 49ers. People are like, Sam, why are you even so excited? Like, we all hate this matchup. And I get it. Look, if I wasn't a Chiefs or a Niners fan, I'd be sick of the matchup. I wouldn't be rooting for this. I get why people are rooting for Ravens-Lions. But let's be real. I mean, I feel like this matchup is pretty even. And we're going to get to all the key matchups in a second, all the storylines. But I think once the game turns on, people are going to, they're having their drinks, having their food, they're around their family and friends. They're going to be excited. The people that are like, yeah, we're not watching the Super Bowl this year, stop. I'll see you on the couch at 6:30 on Sunday. Get out of here with that. But look, Chiefs-Niners, it's not teams that people like, but you got to admit, it's star-studded. There's tons of great matchups. It's a rematch of Super Bowl 54. People are out for vengeance. The other half of the field is out to try to get a dynasty. So let's get into it, because I got a lot of things to talk about this matchup. It's in Vegas. That's one thing. First time Super Bowl's ever hosted in Vegas. First time ever in Allegiant Stadium. And some storylines with Vegas. It's the betting capital of America. So not only does sports betting hit its peak on Super Bowl Sunday, but you're literally surrounded by it with the game happening there, which is insane. But man, let's just talk about the Raiders for a second, because that's their stadium, obviously. And Raiders fans, I doubt you're listening or watching this podcast. If you are, welcome in. But I'm sure you guys don't want to listen to some crazy Chiefs fan all the time. I'm wearing black, though. So, if I didn't tell you, maybe I'm a Raiders fan. But no, I'm not a Raiders fan. You see the football behind me. Okay, but getting back to the Raiders, it's their stadium. I think a kind of funny storyline with this one is that they're going to have to watch their favorite team, or their favorite team stadium, be painted with arguably their two least favorite teams' colors in each end zone, the 49ers and the Chiefs. You're like, Sam, why do they hate the 49ers? They're not even in the AFC or their division. But let's be real. Everyone knows 80s and 90s and the 2000s. That's a big rivalry. That's the Battle of Northern California. They hate the 49ers. And then it's the Chiefs. The fact that if you would have told me 5 years ago the Chiefs have a chance to solidify a dynasty in their rival's stadium, it couldn't get more perfect for a Chiefs fan than that storyline right there. And couldn't get more horrific for a Raiders fan. So I think that's pretty crazy, to be honest. Just the fact that those were the two teams that ended up being here in 2024 in the Super Bowl. It's just like a perfect storm. Perfect storm against the Raiders. I love it. Not to mention, I'm sure people have seen this online, but if you haven't, I'll have Al put it up, right here on screen. There was a picture reposted from back when they started building the stadium of a Chiefs fan that put down a Chiefs flag and buried it under the stadium during its construction. And do us Chiefs fans have to thank that guy? Is he the reason why we're playing in this game right now? And especially if we win the Super Bowl? Is that good luck? Or is it bad luck because it's like underground? No, I think it's good luck because it's forever embedded into that stadium. I can't believe they did that, but man, you guys are trying to scratch and crawl for storylines. Those are just some of the funny ones. Like, we'll get into the real ones against the players and the coaches and everything else. But, come on. It can't get any more, not just funny, but just surreal for Chiefs fans with those weird storylines. Okay, let's get into the two teams. Let's start with the Chiefs. Let's start with the team that is trying to go back-to-back, which will be the 7th time in NFL history a team would go back-to-back. You got the Packers of the 60s. You got the Steelers of the 70s, the 49ers of the 80s, the Cowboys of the 90s, the Broncos of the 90s, and then the Patriots of the 2000s. No team has done this since 2005, so it's been almost 20 years since the team has went back-to-back. Teams have tried. The Chiefs tried a few years ago with the Bucs game, and we got our ass kicked. So we're going to try it again. It's our 4th Super Bowl appearance in 5 years. We're trying to go for our 3rd ring in 5 years, which that's pretty much the definition of a dynasty, which leads me to my next point, which the Chiefs are trying to solidify a dynasty. Sam, I'm talking to myself right now. If you're somehow time traveled back to when you were a little kid, if you're watching right now, let me just say this one more time. The Kansas City Chiefs are trying to solidify a dynasty, not only in the Raiders Stadium, but in your prime of your life. You're in your early 20s right now, and you're watching your favorite football team possibly solidify a dynasty. Unbelievable. Unbelievable. I mean, we have put together possibly the greatest stretch of football in a 5-year stretch. They put up the graphic beforehand. I mean, Al, if you could find that graphic, you could put it up. It's a comparison between the Patriots from, I believe, 2014 to 2018 compared to this Chiefs, so, 2019 to 2023 of, 4 Super Bowl appearances. If we win this one, we'll tie them for rings, 3 rings. Every year we went to the conference championship game. And then I think the Chiefs just have the slight edge because of playoff wins and regular season wins, although there is one more regular season win or regular season game per season nowadays, so that gives us a little bit of the edge. A little bit unfair, but that's just, the statistics behind it. And then also I think we've played a couple more wild card games, so it's about even though. We have the chance to tie the best 5-year stretch in NFL history, which is insanity. I just can't even believe it. In terms of not just the team, you can go down to Andy Reid. He's trying to cement his legacy. This is his 5th Super Bowl appearance, 4th with the Chiefs. He had one with the Eagles, of course, back in 2005. Last time a team went back-to-back. It wasn't his team, but it was the Patriots. Andy Reid, he's already, in my opinion, a top 3 coach of all time. But I think if he gets this ring, he solidifies it. People can say that Andy Reid has had a stark history of choking in the playoffs often. But you got to give him props. He took advantage of a superstar athlete, quarterback in Patrick Mahomes, and he's taken them to their 4th Super Bowl in 5 years. And he's not only a genius mind of play calling, but this is a feat that not many coaches are able to do. So he would become the 7th coach to also win back-to-back rings. So that's extremely impressive. You want to go quarterback comparisons. I mean, the man, the myth, the legend himself, Patrick Mahomes. He's only 28 years old. I think he's only going to become the 2nd quarterback in NFL history to win 3 rings before turning the age of 30. Maybe stat check me on that, but I believe it's only Brady and him if he wins this one. So become the 2nd quarterback to do that. You want to compare him to Brock Purdy? I mean, we can compare him in career, but that would be too unfair, of course. But this is the matchup. Brock Purdy versus Patrick Mahomes, Mr. Irrelevant versus basically the face of the NFL for the last 5 years. I got the stats right here, and it pains me to say this as a Chiefs fan, but Brock Purdy statistically was much better than Patrick Mahomes this year. Not much better, but certainly better. 4,200 yards for Brock Purdy, almost 4,300 yards, 31 touchdowns, 11 picks. He had a better touchdown to interception ratio than Patrick Mahomes, and he had more yards. So Patrick Mahomes, only 4,100 yards, 27 touchdowns, 14 interceptions. Does it really matter? Does it really matter? Well, I guess we'll find out. You know what's a little bit scary about this matchup is that I do feel like, although Brock Purdy is better than this quarterback, it does kind of give me the vibe of like a Nick Foles versus Tom Brady, where I don't want to say it, but this is just a thought I've had over the last week. I can kind of just picture, like, let's just say if we lose the Super Bowl and like that's the only other time Mahomes loses a Super Bowl in his career, like I could totally just see it being like, Mahomes, he won a lot of rings in his day. He was a great quarterback. But his two enemies in the Super Bowl ended up being Tom Brady and Brock Purdy. I could just see people saying that. I don't know why, but we'll see. I mean, Brock Purdy, you can't hate him. He was an MVP candidate at one point, and Patrick Mahomes was never an MVP candidate this season. So We're looking at regular season stats, though. I mean, I would say so far Patrick Mahomes has outplayed Brock Purdy in the playoffs, statistically and just with the eye test. But that's the quarterback matchup we're getting. If you would have told us that, at the beginning of last year when no one even knew who Brock Purdy was, I'd be like, whoa, what happened to the 49ers? But here we are. They earned their spot in the Super Bowl. They were the better team last Sunday. And Brock Purdy, man, he's in his first Super Bowl as Mr. Irrelevant. So, although I'm rooting for Mahomes, you got to give him all the props in the world. Okay, let's do some offense-defense comparisons. I'm going to start with the Chiefs within their own franchise. I want to talk about how vastly different both their offense and defense are from the first time these two teams matched up in Super Bowl 54 in 2019. I mean, you go to their offense, first off, they were a full touchdown back in offensive points per game. In 2019, they were averaging 28.2 points per game. This year, only 21.8, full touchdown back, which does make sense because when you think of the 2019 Chiefs, you think of a high-powered offense with Tyreek Hill and Travis Kelce a little bit younger, of course. So yeah, that makes sense. And the Chiefs have had their struggles this year on offense. But those are interesting comparisons. It does show that we are rolling in with a different team this year because now that you look at the defensive side, we were giving up 20 points per game in 2019. This year, only 17.3 points per game and only 13.7 points per game in the playoffs. That's phenomenal. And not to mention, we have one of the youngest defenses in the NFL. 2019, we were kind of holding on for dear life with some older pieces. Yes, we still had Chris Jones. We had Tyrann Mathieu. Frank Clark. He was getting older, but he had a great playoff stretch in 2019. But now we got L'Jarius Sneed, Trent McDuffie, Nick Bolton, Willie Gay, Charles Omenihu, who I didn't even talk about it. I mean, we're not going to have Charles Omenihu. Very sad. Tore his ACL out for the season. That's a big hit. But we do have George Karlaftis. We have Justin Reid. We got basically a whole new defense, which you guys all know at this point how amazing they've been this season. So a totally different team other than, obviously Kelce, Reid, Mahomes, and then Chris Jones. But, man, those pieces around it are different. I mean, our offense luckily has been playing better in the playoffs and the regular season, and our defense has been playing better. So this is the best version of the Chiefs we have right now. But comparing it to 2019, I don't want to say anything until the Super Bowl's over, because obviously to compare it to 2019, we're going to have to win the Super Bowl like they did. But if they do, we'll have the conversation in a week. But I kind of feel like this team might even be better. We'll see. And then you go to the 49ers. I mean, their defense is still star-studded. It's still top 5 in the NFL, arguably top 3. They still have guys like Fred Warner, Nick Bosa. I would say their secondary is slightly worse, though. But it's still a star-studded defense that hits hard, that is top 3 in the NFL. Their offense, on the other hand, I mean, you look at the 49ers, the whole story of Super Bowl 54 on the 49ers offensive side of the ball was the fact that they had to go away from the run game later as Patrick Mahomes is coming back and put it in the hands. Oh my gosh, how this fucking... Oh my god, I just went like this to the mic. Okay, you ready? All right. Should we just cut that part? No, let's not cut the part. All right, we're not cutting anything. It's Super Bowl week. What was I talking about? Okay, they put it in the hands. Let me restart it because I don't want to get too jumbled here. Okay, the 49ers offense in 2019 in Super Bowl 54, they were going away from the run game as Patrick Mahomes and the Chiefs were coming back in that game. And they had to put it in the hands of Jimmy Garoppolo, who we all know how this ended. He not only got sacked and tried to throw in the air on the final drive, but the play before that, he had to throw it to Emmanuel Sanders, who he missed by, a few inches. And Emmanuel Sanders was open. People say he was like wide open. He wasn't wide open, but he was open enough where a guy of elite status could have made that throw. And we all know the rest of the history. Jimmy Garoppolo couldn't get it done. But this time it's different. We just went through the Brock Purdy stats. And we know if it comes down to that again, I know me as a Chiefs fan, I'm a lot more worried going up against Brock Purdy. Now, I do have trust in our defense. Our defense is better, like I said. But, man, I mean, that's the whole story of their offense. They didn't have Christian McCaffrey last time. They didn't have Brandon Ayuk. They didn't have Trent Williams. And they don't have Jimmy Garoppolo this time. So, we'll see. I mean, CMC is basically carrying their offense this playoffs. And George Kittle. I would give it to George Kittle as well. And then Brandon Ayuk did have that one phenomenal catch to turn the momentum last week. But, man, I'm really interested to see their game plan this time. We're going to get to the key matchups in a second. But I am so curious to see how this Chiefs defense stops CMC. Because that is really... That's Excuse me. I'm a mess this episode. I don't know what's going on. Hopefully the mic didn't catch that too badly. Maybe it's just the nerves. Maybe it's the nerves of this game. Maybe I'm just burping. I don't know what's going on. But I am just... Well, all right. We got to get to one more matchup. One more storyline before we get to the key matchups, because I'm already about to go on a rant about some of these matchups, because although people don't really like this Chiefs 49ers Super Bowl, there's a lot of crazy matchups. Okay. The final storyline in terms of players is a pretty obvious one. We're all going to talk about it. It's the battle of the two best tight ends in the NFL. Kittle versus Kelce. Kelce said it himself. Right now, George Kittle's the best tight end in the NFL. Do I agree with him? For the regular season, I mean, yes, obviously. Kittle had way better stats. I have the stats right here. Kittle had 65 catches, 1,020 yards, and 6 touchdowns. That's more touchdowns, yards, and less catches, significantly less catches, 28 to be exact. And Kelce didn't even get over 1,000 yards. He was only averaging 10.6 yards per catch. George Kittle, 15.7 yards per catch. I mean, and this guy's blocking half the time. So, look, I'm a Kelce guy all the way, but Kittle is by far... I don't have a problem this year if you're arguing Kittle's better, because, yeah, he had the better stats, he had the better yards per catch, he had more touchdowns and more yards. I can't argue with that. But if I had to choose one guy to have in the playoffs, it's still Travis Kelce. He's been great ever since he took, a week break in Week 18 to get healthy for the playoffs. He's had 3 touchdowns already. He's been phenomenal. I'm pretty sure in his last 12 playoff games for Kelce, he's had like over 1,400 yards and like 13 touchdowns or something crazy like that. So I'm still going to pick Kelce on my team, of course. But man, that's the matchup right there. I mean, battle of the tight ends. We had this talk back in 2019 when both were the top 2 tight ends in the NFL. Nothing's really changed, except Kelce's gotten older. And Kittle, man, he stayed healthy this year. You got to give him props. So I am scared of Kittle. I'm scared of a lot of players on this 49ers offense. I'm not afraid to admit that as a Chiefs fan. I think this is a very even matchup. But we'll see. I mean, the only other storyline I have, other than Shanahan, which, I don't know. I mean, he's just chasing a ring at this point. Do I really have to talk about the 28-3 or the fact that he blew a 10-point lead against the Chiefs? We all know what happens with Shanahan when it comes to Super Bowl time. But, yeah, he is still chasing his first ring as a head coach, so we'll see. But... okay, Travis Kelce, Taylor Swift. Do I really care? I don't know. I'm sure a lot of people care. I'm sure a lot of people don't even want me to talk about it right now. I'm not going to spend too long on it. Look, it is a storyline. I mean, it all started in week 2 of the Chiefs-Jaguars game when Kelce caught his first touchdown of the season. And Ian Eagle, of all people, drops a Taylor Swift reference. He says that Kelce found the blank space, which I'm just like... immediate eye roll, like, what are you doing, Ian Eagle? Like, it's stupid. But look, I mean, you got to talk about the storyline just because everyone talks about it. I don't really want to talk about it too long, but yeah, Taylor Swift's going to be there. Everyone is saying that they don't want to see Kelce propose to Taylor Swift after the game, which, look, man, at this point, like, yeah, it gets annoying with the Taylor Swift stuff, but like, I know there's people that are going to take this very serious when I say this, but like, it would be so funny if that happened. I'm sorry. Like, at that point, you just got to accept it and just laugh along with it. Like, if that really is, like, the storybook ending of the season. Like, I'm sorry, that's just hilarious. Like, it's going to be more funny to see people freaking out about it. But, I don't know. I don't really have much to say about the Taylor Swift stuff. It's a celebrity relationship. I mean, people are on the side of, it's manufactured for, whatever reason they want to say. Or, there's the people that love it. I'm kind of indifferent at this point. I'm just like, yeah, it's kind of annoying when they show her sometimes on the screen every 5 seconds. But then at the same time, like, I don't know, I'm there to watch the Chiefs. Like, I'm not going to be a grown man, like, complaining about it 24/7. I don't really give a shit. So, yeah, that is the storyline. People are going to be paying attention to it. We'll see what happens. If she does propose to Travis Kelce after the game, I'm not going to lie, it would be kind of funny. All right. Those were all the storylines. See? I told you guys. I got a plethora of storylines I just went through. It's pretty interesting. I thought it was pretty interesting. You guys hate Chiefs Niners. I don't. I mean, obviously I don't, but I think it's a good matchup. All right. I've been saying that too much. We got to move on. Okay. I picked out 3 key matchups in this game between position groups on each side of the field. So I'm going to go through the first one right now. I got the 49ers secondary against the Chiefs wide receivers. Both units have struggled this year. I mean, if you want to go to the Chiefs side of the field first, what do they need to do to exploit this kind of weak Niners secondary, which They're going against, by the way, Charvarius Ward revenge game. Not a lot of people talk about it, but Charvarius Ward has had a nice little career, especially now that he's been on the 49ers a couple of seasons. He got paid. He's been solid. The Chiefs, it's pretty obvious at this point. Like, we've been through all the Kadarius Toney talk. We know that he's probably not going to be active for the game. Sky Moore has just been invisible since midseason. Like, he's done. MVS, though, we talked about it last season. I don't even think I have the picture anymore, but I brought out his picture of his redemption arc because he's finally catching the ball when it matters 2 years in a row. So I love MVS at this point, and hopefully he doesn't break my heart in the Super Bowl. But truly, if you're looking at the X's and O's, what the Chiefs need to do in this game to exploit the Niners secondary is they need to pull Marquez Valdes-Scantling and Justin Watson wide, and they need to go deep, take the safeties away from the middle of the field, because the good thing, not only obviously because he helped us take us to a Super Bowl, but the good thing about Marquez Valdes-Scantling finally catching the ball in deep scenarios and deep catch scenarios is that defenses are actually going to start paying attention to him again. And if you do pull him and Justin Watson out, who's been underrated this year in the deep route, if you pulled him out deep, that is going to finally let these safeties that usually come in sometimes to watch the middle of the field, that is going to take them out of the equation. It's going to open up the field for Travis Kelce and Rashee Rice in the middle of the field, which is something that is extremely crucial because, let's be real, there's going to be some pressure with Nick Bosa. We'll get to our next matchup when it comes to that in a second, but Patrick Mahomes needs to get the ball out quickly. And if Travis Kelce isn't an immediate safety blanket, like I know they're probably going to double him pretty often in this game, and they have Fred Warner, the best linebacker in the NFL. But if they don't get the ball out quick enough to these star receivers, there's going to be an issue. Because even though they will, and by they I mean MVS and Justin Watson, even though they will distract some of that secondary if they go deep, like if Mahomes has to roll out and try to look deep, I don't know if I still trust them. Those receivers still. So, I don't know. It's going to be interesting. I think our initial script is have to be quick. It's going to have to stick to the run game. We're going to have to do screens to Rashee Rice. We're going to have to get Travis Kelce out in space. It's got to be stuff like that. Quick, easy stuff to get the confidence up for Mahomes against this defense. Okay, that leads me to my next point. The second key matchup of this game. It's Nick Bosa versus these Kansas City tackles. Now, Nick Bosa, we all know, is arguably the best defensive end in the NFL. You could say him, Myles Garrett, or TJ Watt. That's pretty much your argument right there. But nonetheless, he's elite. He's a superstar. We got to watch out for him. He was here in 2019. A pretty big name in that game when people were claiming that he was getting held the whole game, yada, yada, whatever. But this time, we don't got Eric Fisher. We got Donovan Smith and Jawan Taylor. You want to talk about a Taylor that Chiefs fans don't like? It's Jawan Taylor. Because that guy is the most penalized tackle in the NFL. He holds, he jumps off sides. Here's the thing, though. He's actually not a bad blocker. And same with Donovan Smith. I don't think they get enough credit for how average they block. Which I'm saying average is a good thing because I think people are putting these tackles out to be like horrific. They're not. They're average. And sometimes they're above average. But yeah, they got to limit their penalties. And they got their hands full. I mean, they're going to have to double Nick Bosa at some point in this game because, Patrick Mahomes, for the most part, in his career, he is great outside the pocket getting pressured. But, I mean, if there is a time to trust his receivers, it's now because we are hitting our stride this season offensively. But you gotta contain Nick Bosa for the most part. I mean, that's every team's game plan. But this one's extra crucial just because of how our tackles have been struggling with holding and penalties. I mean, Nick Bosa said it himself in the press conference last week when asked about the Chiefs' tackles. He's like, yeah, they hold a lot. And, you expect me to get mad at that? No, I mean, he's right. They do hold a lot. That's a fact. And people were like, yeah, Nick Bosa is already riling up the excuses. No, I mean, he's just stating facts, and that's coming from a Chiefs fan. He's stating facts. They do hold a lot. So we'll see what happens. Hopefully they don't have to hold to keep him back so Patrick Mahomes doesn't get clobbered this entire game. And then my third key matchup. We got the Chiefs linebackers versus the running backs of the 49ers, a.k.a. basically Christian McCaffrey. I mean, I'm sure they'll sprinkle in an Elijah Mitchell 2 or 3 plays in there. But it's Christian McCaffrey. How are we going to contain this man? That's a great question. But I've done some research on these Chiefs linebacking core. First of all, thank God Willie Gay is most likely coming back because his injury looked a lot worse. He did miss last week, but I think he's coming back. We have Drew Tranquil, and we have Nick Bolton. We all know Nick Bolton last year in the Super Bowl. He literally had a touchdown. Could have had a second one if it wasn't called back. who would have been an MVP. So I'm not worried about the talent of our linebackers. We tackle really well, but we do tend to over pursuit, which scares me a little bit. Not only for the fact that Christian McCaffrey can make a quick move on anybody because he's quite arguably the best running back in the NFL and of the last 5 years. But if you over pursuit too quick against this Niners offense, don't underestimate Kyle Shanahan. I don't give a shit if he doesn't have a ring yet. He, right behind Andy Reid, arguably is the most genius play caller in the NFL right now. And he knows how to exploit these linebackers. If you over pursuit, trying to get after Christian McCaffrey, he's going to hit you with that play action in 2 seconds. He's going to hit you with that play action. He's been doing that all season. Genius play actions. He puts Kittle on a crosser. He puts Ayuk on a crosser. And doesn't it seem like every single time Brandon Ayuk catches the ball this year, he's wide open? Yeah, because he designs the play action so well. Now they have Christian McCaffrey as this weapon. They did not have Christian McCaffrey in 2019. Now that they can utilize him not only as a great player with the ball in his hands, but as a decoy to set up the play action against these linebackers on the Chiefs that tend to over pursuit. Yeah, I'm a little bit afraid of Brandon Ayuk getting out in open space. I'm a little bit afraid of George Kittle getting out in open space and then having the run after catch. I'm not as worried about our tackling. I'm not worried about Snead or McDuffie or Bolden, any of those guys tackling. It's just the scheming. And I think that's really what we're going to have to be careful. Just make sure you're pursuing not too much. Make sure you're penetrating the offensive line. Make sure you're staying within your lane, and you're not going too crazy, but you do have to tackle well. So it's a tough matchup. I mean, it seems like a lot to be asked of the Chiefs defense because it is. But hey, if there's one defense up to the task, it's arguably the best defense in the NFL this year, which is the Chiefs. So that's an interesting matchup though, because I would say our linebackers are our weakest link right now. But they're not bad. They're not bad. So it's going to be interesting to see how CMC plays in this game. Wow. I just got through every single thing. That's crazy. I feel like I talked a mile a minute on this one. It's because there's so much to cover. I'm so excited for the Super Bowl, man. I mean, I just think it's a great matchup. I've been saying this literally for the last 25 minutes. But here we are. I mean, this is it. This is my final prediction of the 2023-24 NFL season. I can't believe we're already here. Thank God the Chiefs are a part of this prediction. But man, I mean, I'm not only going to give you a score. I'll give you like a quick 30-second rundown on how I think this game is going to go back and forth. I think it's going to be a one-score game. So here's your Super Bowl 58 prediction. I think the game is going to start out a little bit hotter than people think, and then it's going to slow down, kind of like the Ravens-Chiefs game. I think we're going to trade touchdowns immediately. It's going to be 7-7. Then it's going to end up kind of being a field goal fest. I actually do think that there will be a time where the Chiefs get pinned back in their own end zone and the Niners get a safety. I think our tackles, we'll get to my prediction in a second, but I think if we're going to lose this game, it might come down to the tackles blowing one assignment to Nick Bosa. I know I just went through the matchup. That's the matchup I'm most afraid of out of the 3 key matchups. So I really do think Nick Bosa has a chance to wreck this game. Hopefully not, though. So I think that the Niners are going to get a safety at one point. You know what? I'll call the game, honestly, 12-10 at halftime. Niners are up. I'm shaking in my boots a little bit going into halftime. But then coming out of halftime, I think the Chiefs are going to make great adjustments. I think the Niners are going to make good adjustments. And I think the Chiefs are just going to squeak it out. They're going to score 13 more points. They're only going to hold the Niners to what they've been averaging this entire season in the second half giving up, which is 7 points. They had 12 going into halftime. They're going to end with 19, and the Chiefs are going to end with 23. So there's your prediction. Chiefs are going to win Super Bowl 58 by a 4-point margin, 23-19, and our defense is just barely going to hold off Brock Purdy, and our offense is going to do just enough after making the right adjustments at halftime. There you go. Chiefs win the Super Bowl. Oh my gosh, please let this be true. Guys, when we come back for next week's episode, we'll know the result, and that's crazy. And I really hope it's the Chiefs. Go Chiefs. I love Chiefs Kingdom. I love my team. Good luck to the 49ers, but we should hopefully beat you. Thank you guys for listening and watching. That was our Super Bowl 58 preview episode. And please like and subscribe all the videos on YouTube. Follow us at In the Huddle Podcast on YouTube, at In the Huddle Pod on Instagram, and _ In the Huddle _ on TikTok. Really quickly before we say goodbye, Al, do you have any predictions, anything you want to see from this Super Bowl?
I hope the Niners win, and because I hope that happens, that won't happen. So there's no doubt in my mind the Chiefs will win this game. You can't bet against Big Red.
Why do you want the Niners to win? You produced a podcast for me for 4 months. You're not going to root for me?
That's why I think it would make for great content. This
is the problem. You're too content heavy.
Let's hope they lose.
No, let's not hope they lose.
They're not going to lose, though.
What if I bring out a whole extravaganza when the Chiefs win?
Okay.
What if I bring out some confetti and shit? It could be entertaining if the Chiefs win.
Well, we'll see what happens on Monday, like you said. This is Al, and thanks for listening to the Huddle podcast.
All right, goodbye. Go Chiefs.